People come to see me and to other counselors for a huge variety of reasons. Problems in the relationship with their spouse, their relationship with their employer, the relationships within their church. I tend to see a lot of folks with psychiatric-oriented issues like OCD or perhaps bipolar, things like that. There are lots of ways that people seek help apart from the gospel. Sometimes not seeking help at all, without seeking the Lord, without seeking the help of other people. Other people try to dull their suffering and issues with alcohol or drugs. Other people will injure themselves. Other people will become angry and deny that there's a problem and become self-justified in their behavior. So there are a lot of ways that we deal with these issues apart from the good news of Jesus. We live in a fast-paced world, and someone may not be ready or willing or have the time to pick up a book-length treatment of this topic, but they may be very willing to read something that stimulates their attention, that gives them hope for change. I think the booklets are helpful in several ways. They're like an entry gate into a biblical perspective. They would feel like this really describes my struggle. But more than that, that they would also feel like, here's a hopeful pathway. I have some hope for what change would look like, what growth would look like in the midst of this struggle.
The rest booklet flowed out of my own experience, my own struggles with anxiety, not knowing when to stop, being frustrated, complaining about not having time to rest. It's paradoxical, but we try to rest in our own efforts. We in effect want to play God and maintain our own world, try to meet our own needs. It gives us some sense of control, at least for the very short term. But over the long term, as we realize we can't control our own world, it leads to more anxiety, more exhaustion, and more distance between you and the God who really can control your world and give you space to rest. So it's a bigger attitude of God is in control, and I don't have to oversteer. I shouldn't steer my own life into a ditch because I've got a white knuckle grip on the wheel. But faith is a looser grip, and it's understanding that ultimately God's the one who's steering.
I think they're a different product because they apply a consistent, biblical, Christ-centered worldview to these problems of life. I use the booklets a lot in ministry because it gives people a chance to go home and read and reflect. It may introduce new ideas, new ways of thinking about things that we'll pick up on later when we talk further. I would say the most rewarding thing about my job is seeing someone grab hold of the good news of the gospel in the very cracks and crevices of their lives. You see the Spirit working and applying biblical truth to their heart, and so change happens. That's probably the most rewarding aspect of my job.